Welcome back. One of the key questions for Christchurch right now is how quickly businesses, especially those smaller ones, will recover from damage caused by the quake. Shortly we will be hearing from the manager of the Central City Business Association, but first I took to the streets to see just how retail trade is holding up.
You could call them the lucky ones. Shops that suffered little or no damage after the quake. But despite opening their doors this week, some small businesses in the CBD are struggling to regain customers.
It's going to take a few months to recover, but you know, we've got a very loyal customer base, so we expect that will come back into normalcy in the next few weeks.
It is definitely a bit slower in town, it's quieter, there's not so many people around, so hopefully it gets back up to normal soon. People start coming out and kind of getting over it, hopefully.
We opened the previous Saturday, but unfortunately we haven't had many customers coming in. Understandably, people in Christchurch don't really have their mind on shopping at the moment.
But that's not to say the public's staying away. If you didn't know an earthquake had hit, you'd be forgiven for thinking it was business as usual in some places.
Town is really busy for sure, everyone bustling around, a lot of people taking photographs, obviously building assessors and people coming to tidy up their own businesses, but no one that's interested in shopping really.
Despite the lull in sales, businesses are optimistic.
They'll be back, you know, I don't know, in a month or two, hopefully. I mean, as long as the earthquakes stop, it'll be back to normal. I think summer will roll around and people will be happy to be out in the city and enjoying it again.
And they're calling for help from the public.
You know, we just urge people to come on into the CBD now and support all the businesses that have lost, you know, probably a good part of a week's trading.
So for these businesses, it seems opening their doors is just the beginning of the road to recovery. Marcus Irvine, Metro News.
In the last 48 hours, Parliament has passed legislation to aid Canterbury's rebuilding process and make it easier for businesses to get back on their feet. The legislation gives the City Council power to speed up processes like building consents and aims to cut out much of the usual paperwork. Paul Lonsdale is the manager of the Central City Business Association, and I asked him for his outlook on the future of the city's small businesses and what this new legislation will mean for business owners. So nearly 2 weeks on from the quake, where do small businesses stand in Christchurch?
Look, I think most of them are open. We've got probably 95% of our business, maybe a few more, 95% of the business is open right now. So the important part was getting them open, getting the people back in there working, which obviously just gets them out of their homes and gets them back to a bit of normality. We've noticed from the people out in the street, they're trying to find normality and they're looking for it. So the business community being back up and running is really important for that feeling to flow through.
What have you heard from businesses you know, about the negative impact of the earthquake on revenue and that kind of thing? Look,
obviously the ones that haven't got insurance is a bit of a concern. The ones that have got insurance, the impact's going to be less. Loss of 7 days trading though is quite significant for many businesses, and it will have an impact financially somewhere along the way.
Do you have any numbers?
Very heavy, it'd be in the millions. You know, you're talking about 550 businesses here in the CBD. That weren't trading for those 7 days, so it's a lot of money.
But generally, businesses are seeming to get back on their feet? Yeah, look,
I've spoken to, you know, the mood's pretty upbeat overall. Most people are pretty positive, you know, they're just moving on and getting on with it now. They've just got to get into recovery mode, which we are in now, and it is surprising, you know, surprising what people are buying. You know, they're in there getting the things they need for home, but yeah, the mood around the city's pretty good, really.
Great. So Parliament's just rushed through new legislation giving them more power as we head into the rebuilding phase. What effect will bypassing things like resource consent and red tape like that have on small businesses?
It shouldn't have any effect on the small business. In fact, long term it's going to have a benefit because the stuff that needs to be rebuilt will be rebuilt much quicker, and I think that's important. With the coming World Cup coming into New Zealand, we want to give you know, the people coming to Christchurch, you know, great representation, all the buildings back intact, and get the jobs that are currently on the go finished, like the tram, for example. So I'd like to see that finished because that's going to be quite important that we drive on. It is an opportunity for also for Christchurch to build its population base, bringing more people into the community. So I think there's many positives about the next few years.
But surely rushing through things like resource consent could have some negative impact?
Look, I think there are particular rules and guidelines still in place, and people are still being very particular what gets built. There are panels set up to control that side of things. The resource consents, that they will still go through the same process, but you'll find they'll probably just do it a lot quicker. There'll be probably a special group set up to handle those, so they're pushed through much quicker than, say, they were before.
So you think it's generally going to be quite a good thing?
Well, absolutely, yes. I think get our city rebuilt quicker, rather than later.
Great. Thank you, Paul, very much for your time.
That's all right, thank you.
The locals of Bexley, already struggling with devastation caused to their homes by the quake, are now being dealt another blow. Their football club may be facing demolition, and as Jonathan Mitchell reports, it would be a loss which would hit the community hard.
The Earth's movement can clearly be seen at this 30-year-old sports complex, which could face total demolition.
All sorts of other damage. The grounds are pretty well poked. They've all got cracks in them or sand hills in the middle of them now as well. So yeah, it's pretty devastating for the club. Yeah.
You may not be able to tell from this angle, but as you walk up to the centre of the court, the floor's actually risen in the middle, so it's deemed useless for playing games like basketball. The spirits are low for the 800 members who won't be able to use these facilities, and to make matters worse, jobs will be lost as well.
I've got a part-time cleaner who's now about to become unemployed. We run programs out of here that we employ staff for, school holiday programs for football that we employ students and club members to run, that sort of thing. So yeah, it's going to have quite an impact.
The possible loss of the club is hard for those who use it regularly.
Just how I've been down there for years and just had a place to hang out, just like in the gym, just to kick a ball around.
The club expects to hear from earthquake assessors next week. However, rebuilding on the same spot is up in the air.
The ground's actually still moving, hence why we can't get more developments on here for, would have been probably the next 10 years, but probably longer now.
If the building does face demolition, it will only be the bricks and mortar which will be torn down, not the spirit of the community.
I'm sure if this building does get knocked down and rebuilt, it'll be a community build as well. That's what it built it 30 years ago, and that won't change. Good people in this area.
And it's the good people in this area who are making sure these junior footballers don't miss out. They'll be playing on other pitches around the region. Jonathan Mitchell, Metro News.
Later in the program, Canterbury's rising rugby star. And how volunteers in Littleton rose to the occasion.